Through the terms of his will, British absentee landowner Samuel Gist freed his 350 Virginia slaves and provided funds for their relocation and the purchase of lands and homes, and the establishment of schools and churches as well. Gist executors acquired over 2,000 acres of land in Ohio, including 2 large tracts in Scott and Eagle Townships in Brown County in 1819. In 1831 and 1835, an agent of the Gist estate purchased 207 acres in Fairfield Township, known now as Penn Township, Highland County, and divided the acreage into 31 lots. The Gist settlement in Highland County was the last one to be purchased and settled. In 1857, the Ohio legislature granted the Highland County Court of Common Pleas control over the freedmen's trust monies. In 2003, descendants of the freed Gist slaves still inhabit part of the original settlement. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mika Wilkerson Show. And today I have 2 very, very special guests that this show is going to mean a lot of personal things to me. It is about Gist settlement. Gist settlement is where my grandmother is from, among many other descendants. You're going to find out a lot about Gist settlement on this show because I'm going to forever talk about Gist settlement because it's honoring every descendant that has fought to keep that land alive all these years. Every single descendant that is involved. Thank you from the beginning. Now, we are going to get into the interview with Chuck and Paige Green, and they are from Gist Settlement, Roland Turner Legacy. Thank you guys so much for coming because this interview is personal and means the world to me. Now I'm going to let you guys introduce your positions, where what you're doing, where you're involved at, and then we're going to go from there.
My name is Chuck Green. I'm the vice president of the Legacy Group.
My name is Paige Green, and I am a director and secretary treasurer for, we go by the name of Gist Settlement Legacy for everyone.
Okay. Now, when you talk about Gist Settlement Legacy, how did Gist Settlement Legacy get started? This is just shortening it up, by the way. I'm sorry, I don't want you guys to think I just changed the name.
Paul Turner, when he was finally able to, and there's more to that story, when he was finally able to get properties into his name in 2016, then he went ahead and asked for help for some other people to go ahead and start a nonprofit. So we are a nonprofit that is 501c3, so people could go ahead and donate money to us to help us out with the different projects that we're trying to do. And then when Paul passed away, we were in his will that all of the land was to be turned over into the legacy, and that all of his personal belongings be sold, and that money be used to help to keep us afloat starting out.
Okay. So with doing that, you said that you guys started, what year did this start again?
He got his land in 2016, and then Legacy, I believe it was started in 2019.
Okay. And since you have started this, have you run into any issues? I know you were talking about issues. We've talked about some things before I came on the show, so I don't want it to seem like I'm just throwing things out there. I know you were having issues with the church and the cemetery, so we're going to talk about that. Tell me more about that.
So in 2016, when the Highland County courts and Paul finally came to agreements, they went ahead and they put a deed to each one of the properties. For many years, they were being charged taxes, but nobody had deeds in order to go ahead and have ownership, clear ownership. So when Paul got all of those deeds, nobody really thought to get a deed for the church and cemetery. Right. So it's the only property that's left out there that does not have a deed to it. So we recently, about a year ago, we wanted to go ahead and file to get the deed for that so that we could have it under our umbrella, and we would be able to go ahead and go for grants to fix the church, and we would be able to go ahead and do maintenance and possibly even enlarge the cemetery. But until we have ownership for them, we can't really do anything that would be some kind of a permanent change to it.
So where are you guys at in that aspect of things right now? Like, are you able to do some repairs to the church now, or do you need to raise quite a bit more in order to be able to do that?
We cannot touch the church. We do not have ownership.
So they won't even let you go in there and just be like, hey, we're volunteering, we're trying to do this, we're trying to fix it up. They're just going to let it just fall down and be abandoned? Like,
I'm sure they would let us go ahead and do anything, but when you get down to it, if people are donating funds to us and we go ahead and we put them into that church and we don't have ownership, and they decide they're going to all of a sudden sell it or tear it down.
yeah.
And that
We-
is a
we can't.
possibility that they could sell it. So
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, what can we do in order? There's nothing we can do to stop this. Is that what you guys are saying? Like, or is there anything legally that can be done?
We're not sure. We are at the point where there's been a discussion with the prosecutor for Penn Township back last year, a little bit longer than a year ago. And I had a conversation with her that she said that there was a committee that had been formed in the area that went ahead and made a list of all of the non-active churches, and that our church is on that list. And then she went on to talk about the list. They wanted to make all of those church properties taxable and then possibly backdate it for 3 years so they could send it to tax sale.
Okay.
So what we have been told is that there's other areas where people haven't paid their property taxes that are so much more financially worth them chasing,
Yeah.
rather than holding a church and cemetery hostage.
Right.
So we went ahead and we tried to file in court to get possession of the church and the cemetery. And our attorney finally came to us and said that because she is refusing to let us go ahead and proceed with it without interference, that we can't prove that we have been taking care of it for the past 21 years. Well, Gist
Really?
Settlement legacy has not been developed for 21 years. However, Gist Settlement descendants have always been the ones taking care of the church, the grass and property around the church, and they used to be the ones who were always cutting the grass in the cemetery.
Right.
About 5 years ago, the trustees went to the person who was cutting the grass as part of the descendants,
Yeah.
and told them, do you have insurance and are you bondable in order to be cutting the grass? And a person that's cutting the grass because they're doing it because they're an ancestor isn't going to be prepared with that kind of documentation.
Right. Like,
Therefore,
Oh my goodness.
they removed their ability to be able to do so. So 5 years ago, it started being somebody who got a contract to do cutting the grass for the cemeteries, and that person happens to be a relative of one of the trustees. But even though through all of the years, people like Paul Turner, Lester Robinson, and Glenn Peacock, who cut the grass there because they wanted to do it for their ancestry. That is where everybody that is in that cemetery is a descendant in one way or another. They are related.
and we cut the grass at the church. So
Always. The trustees have never paid for somebody to cut the grass at the church.
and now that's what they're trying to get you guys to do. They're basically trying to do the whole legal issue just when it comes to basically cutting grass.
That is what she's using as a tool. But with it always being the ancestors, the descendants reaching and cutting the grass there,
Yeah.
who's going to turn down when somebody approaches them and says,
Right.
I'm going to pay you for doing that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Paul Turner, when he collected money for cutting that grass, he turned around and took that money and spent it on the past due property taxes on those properties in order to retain them, which is part of the reason why he was able, because he kept for years paying those property taxes It showed he had the initiative, the want to be able to own those lands.
Right. So I noticed, and just as kind of getting into your board a little bit, there's like 11 members, right?
We recently went ahead and redid our bylaws so that we have 11 directors, and we are lifetime directors. There's only 3 ways to get off of our board, and there's only 1 way to get on our board. To get off our board, you either have to be so seriously ill that you're not participating anymore, so we decide we need to go ahead and replace you. For you to actually decide that you want to retire from being on it, or that you pass away. To get on the board, you have to be elected by the directors, the remaining directors that would be on it, in order to fill that space.
Okay, so out of all the positions that are on the board, how many are actively involved in what you guys are doing? Like, I know you said you help clean up the headstones and straighten them up and such. How many members are you leaving those to when you have where you're getting a bunch of volunteers together and they just go out there at certain days and times and start cleaning everything up?
Part of the problem with that is we are not all local. We are retired, so we do some traveling. So we go ahead and we plan, and we actually, our home is in Florida. So we travel, and we came up here, and usually in Ohio we stay for about 5 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So for those that aren't living locally, it's hard to expect them to do anything. Or for those that may not move around easily, but they're descendants and they want to make sure that the property is maintained correctly.
Yeah.
They're not actually doing anything, but if we let them know there was something going on, they would show up.
And take care of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you currently looking for people to be able to come out there and help? And when is the next time you think you're going to need some volunteers out there to do anything?
We are in the process of deciding what we can do with Paul Turner's house. That is the main building that is actually still standing. Inside Paul's house is the remnants of a 1800s cabin. We've already had one person come out that actually has old cabins that they have purchased and they store for such an event as this. They would come in, they would remove the one beam that we found that actually dates back, and then they could go ahead and remove the rest of the house and then turn around and put a cabin that is date appropriate on that space. So we would be able to go ahead then and get some things that would go into a cabin that were from that dated time. A butter churn. We would have to have somebody else come in that could go ahead and build a stone fireplace oven. You could bake fresh bread in it. You know, putting tools in there, things that would be showing back in that time period what they were using. That could be an example for anybody, not just the people who are descendants, but it could be open to everyone. We have discussed if we go ahead and put something in there where we would have people come and look at it, it would be by appointment only. Or we would have certain days where we would be open, like certain holidays. Highland County has different events on different days. They've been very nice and they've included us on their calendar. So if they were having some special event, we could put it close to that and we could have a day that we were actually open at the same time. But we're still years down the road from being ready for people to come out and look. Right now, we're still very rough. We are every year having a family reunion. I'd like to call it a volunteer appreciation also. Our first year was last year in 2025. We had 250 people show up. This year, we only had 120, but still,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of people. And not everybody's going to be able to save the date every year.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we're going to make a habit of doing that every year. So during that time, once we finish getting things together, we would be able to use that as people were able to come out and take a look during that time.
Okay. Now we're going to get into like the lots and the acres and stuff like that. How many acres are owned by of the lots and are owned by the trust?
We have approximately 150 acres.
Okay.
We have a farmer who contracts for any of the open land that had been farmed by Paul.
Okay.
So he now farms it for us, and he gives us 2 allotments every year, one at December and then one in the middle of the year. And that makes us self-supporting. We can pay for all of our regular bills with that money, but if we want to make improvements to the land, we do need to do some donation collecting and do events where we could bring something in.
Okay, now I hope this, I guess it's kind of public record maybe. I don't know if this is or not. How many of these lots were acquired and how were they acquired? Well, not how many, how were the lots acquired? I apologize.
For years, there were arguments, legal battles over the property because when it was originally purchased back in the early 1800s, it was purchased as 2 lump purchases and then put together. So it was 207 acres.
Yeah.
The trustees of the property back in that time felt that it would be easier to go ahead and pay the property tax bill if they kept it as 1. So they told everybody that they brought in to go ahead and this lot is yours, this lot is yours, this lot is yours. So they knew how much of it was theirs, but they didn't have ownership of it. So when the trust and everything was no longer in effect, there was no more money in it, the people that were on those properties didn't understand how that process goes, but they didn't also have legal ownership. So after many years of arguing, Paul Turner spent a lot of time, and there are 2 other people that are on the property that actually live on Gist settlement property, not legacy property. There is a difference. Not all of the land is in our trust.
Okay.
But they all went and they were working with the government to go ahead and get them to give deeds for the property. So it was in 2016 when they actually did go ahead and deed it so that everybody has a deed to their property. I believe you have some family that also has a piece of property back there.
Yes.
They don't have a dwelling on it, but they still own that. It still counts.
My grandfather, Osro Turner, yeah.
It still counts as Gist settlement, but it's not part of the legacy.
Okay. Well, with saying that, how is the land? I know I haven't been able to go down there in a while, so I'm going to just put that out there. What kind of shape is the land in right now to where are there still tons of repairs that need done? Or, because I really want to help and try to put the word out. Anybody that's willing to volunteer, anybody that's willing to do anything to help you guys do what you're trying to do, cleaning headstones, helping clean the church, whatever needs cleaned up.
Right at this time, I have ballparked, and this is not something that has been agreed upon by the board. This is where I've been collecting information and haven't had a chance to present yet. We are looking at approximately $200,000 to go ahead and do something by either remodeling Paul Turner's house or by removing it and putting something else in its place. So I'm putting a $200,000 goal for us to collect in order to make that building, that area, something that we would be able to classify as a historic building, a museum.
To put
per
all
se.
the artifacts in, because I remember talking about the Ohio Valley Archaeology. You said that we were talking about how many artifacts they're holding from Gist settlement, and they're holding that for you guys to get the museum and things together so that you can put them all in there.
Right.
We are very thankful to them for holding on to these items.
Absolutely.
They've now had them for over 10 years in their storage.
Wow.
The list is approximately 1,000 to 2,000 items. Now, keeping in mind, a lot of it is like a broken piece of plate. They can't always date it back into the 1800s. A lot of it, they can go back to the earlier 1900s. But we need a place where we would be able to climate control and display. And by making this Paul's house into the cabin, we stand a start for being able to do that. There is another building that is on the property which may be able to be redone to just be a where we collect books, a computer that may be loaded with information about different families that people could look at if they were arranged to be there, and more of the artifacts that we have.
Okay.
But that program that they did, that was with Washington Courthouse High School back in 2006, and the teacher was Paul LaRue, who is still involved in Ohio education. And the archaeological group, Ohio, I'm sorry, I blank out on what their whole name was. That was a very good project that they did. Okay, they are Ohio Valley Archaeology in Columbus, Ohio. So this project took them years. It was years of coming out at different times, different classes, and they worked all over on the property. They picked certain areas to go ahead and do these measured out squares where they dug in that area and they sifted in that area. And they were in the cemetery. They had the detection equipment. There's places where they definitely know there was a concrete vault for a burial. There's other places where they see something, but they're not exactly sure what, which could be the older graves before they had the cement, the concrete that in there. They made a list of all of the tombstones, even the ones that had nothing written on them, but there was something there that made them think that this was part of somebody's resting place. Yeah. To have a group of kids that went ahead and participated in this project is really astounding. I have been in touch with them. They, at the time, unfortunately, don't feel that they could do some more, but I am in touch with some other companies, archaeological companies, where they may be able to get funding to come out, and there's a whole nother side of the property that wasn't touched. To let them be able to go ahead and do
everything from the history of that land. Oh gosh, I would love to see that.
So we are open to that, and there is a map that was included in their information. Whoops, I can never get, there we go. The squares that are on this map are where they detected cabins used to be. So that helps them with what areas to go.
What I'll do is what you're talking about, I'll put that picture up as you're talking and add it in so people will be able to see it.
Sure.
So, yeah.
To be able to open it up, that we are open for them to be able to do it, and we have the farmer, we have already talked to him. We would let him know ahead of time what season somebody was going to be working in what area, and he would go ahead and we would make sure to mark off where they would work, so nobody was going to clash in with each other, but everybody was going to work together. So we're hoping we're going to go ahead and get some more of that going on.
Okay. And I'm not, to kind of a side note, I used to have dreams of how guest settlement was going to look for the future, because I was like, I would love to just go in there and wish I had like millions of dollars and, revive the whole place and have it like it was back in the day, have a grocery store out there, like a little mart where people can go and get their local groceries on the farm out there, the church, the school, just small little businesses even. Just make that a whole community where you don't even really have to leave. Yes, these are just fantasies in my head, by the way. But, I was like, I just want to see that. When I would read the stories online, I was like, I want to be able to see and go back in time and just relive all that. And just have, a new level of descendants that's living out there and just all talking, getting along, and making it so that they don't feel like the place is abandoned and this is why we have to keep coming after it and doing all that. So if they see a community living out there, maybe they won't do that.
Well, not to pop your bubble, but we're not going to have anybody living on any of the Legacy's properties that they own.
Yeah. I mean, no, these were just fantasies of mine. Like, like I was seeing over the years, like, I would just love to see it just be a whole new community. But I already know, about that type of stuff, yeah.
But by being able to make at least Paul's house into an area where we could educate somehow. We know we want to keep history. We know we want to find a way to display it. We also know we don't want to be a mainstream of traffic. We still want to remain the peaceful environment that we are now.
Right.
We would really like to be able to get that cemetery and church because there is a grant available that we could apply for specifically for the restoration of Black historic churches. But we have to have the deed to be able to apply for the grant.
And that's where the problem comes in at.
Right. Now, the original pews and everything are inside the church. We've had people go ahead and provide pictures of what's in there. There's a lot that could be restored for in there. It would be really great. So if we could get that and we could get that fixed up, we could offer it to somebody who wanted to go ahead and start having services or events for church-wise there.
That'd be so nice.
If somebody had a wedding, they could go ahead and get married there. They could come down onto the other part where we are with Paul's house. There's a building there that we may be able to fix up that would be rentable at the same time for someone to have a reception.
That'd be beautiful.
It's got some prospects of things that we can do that still remain calm, quiet, but we're able to let people know that we're there.
Right.
We can share. We've been given a beautiful gift between the ancestors of the property and Paul Turner's hard work.
Oh yeah, and all the other work of the other descendants through the years that helped along this way as well. Like there was so many descendants, like I said, and so many of them are gone now. Like my grandmother, you said Mr. Robinson, and some of the ones that were fighting back then, and then of course you guys are doing your fighting now. So there's been so much. I know I use the word fighting. What I mean is not just letting whatever's happening to the land and never doing anything and just letting it just fall apart with trash and everything. There are people actively wanting good things for this land. And that's where, right now actively what is going on, and you said since 2016, is guest settlement, Turner Rollins legacy, and that's 2016 501c3, and you guys have made great progress so far, but you still got a lot of work ahead of you. Is that kind of summarizing where things are right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I hate to do this. We're going to do a part 2 of this because guest settlement's way too important. They deserve 2 parts. So we will be right back next week at 8 p.m. and come back for part 2 about guest settlement. See you guys soon.